Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 148, coming at you from the Valley. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for this weekly MMA podcast streaming anywhere you listen to podcasts with the videos on YouTube. So a little bit different than normal is I'm providing only a preview of UFC Macau. It's a couple weeks out, but I'm in the Philippines for 2 weeks. I'm not going to bring all my camera equipment overseas. That makes me hella nervous. Feel like I'd lose it. It'd get damaged. So I'm at least doing this preview, and then I will recap the Apex card when I come back and get into normal programming. But yeah, we're going to jump right in. There's no fights that have been announced, but we will preview or have a little bit of a chat on PFL Brussels going down May 23rd and UFC Macau. So PFL Brussels, prelims at 10 a.m. Pacific, main card 1 p.m. on ESPN+. So a little bit of an early card. To be honest, not quite to the level, but this a little bit reminds me of the MVP card that's going on this weekend. There's a lot of random names that the PFL is trying to pull from, get eyeballs on. Not sure if it's going to be the quality product. The PFL's had a couple decent cards. I've given the PFL chances. I still talk about them. With new ownership, getting rid of the tournament style, we'll see what happens. This is a pivotal year for that promotion in my mind. But we have Patrick Haberora taking on Benson Henderson. I'm a MMA diehard, and I've never heard of who Benson Henderson's fighting. And I love Benson Henderson. He competed in RAF. You know, he's one of the all-time greats. He's 42, going to be 43 this November, and hasn't fought professionally since he fought Usman Nurmagomedov in Bellator back in 2023. That's just what these other promotions have to deal with because the talent pool is so deep with the UFC. And if you're a legit fighter, you want to have a chance at being a UFC champion, you got to go to the UFC. You get tied under these PFL contracts. You're kind of stuck. But this Patrick guy is 25 years old. He's fought 4 times in PFL, all in the Europe promotion, defeating Kevin Jousset, obviously I'm familiar, Danny Roberts, Catalin Softa, and Claudio Pasea. So again, this is just the level that we're dealing with. Because Benson's older, I'm going to take Patrick. This is probably one of their more talented fighters that I wish stayed with the UFC, but we have Taylor Lapilus taking on Jake Hadley, another ex-UFCer. I think Taylor Lapilus starches Jake in that fight. We have ex-UFC fighter Jared Gooden taking on Boris Mabara Atangana. I'm not super high on Jared, that's why I'm taking Boris. I think these guys, PFL is trying to build their name on a lot of ex-UFCers to build up these other fighters. And then we have Marceli Alves, who I've enjoyed watching against Naoki Inoue. I'm taking Marceli. Those are the only fights that I care about. I try to look at records, find if they have any cool up-and-coming talents. Those are the ones. If you want to tune in. We'll talk about it when I get back. But we have UFC Macau. Again, prime time in China. Prelims 1 a.m. Pacific. Main card 4 p.m. Pacific. All on Paramount Plus. I mean, this card, solid. Pretty solid main card. Some fun matchups. I do think the prelims are light. There's a lot of new faces to the promotion. They're doing the road to the UFC quarterfinals the week of as well. But I'm going to preview this a 5 out of 10. Some good fights that we will not break down, quite a few of them. We have Loma Lukumbunmi taking on Jacqueline Amarim. 14th ranked Angela Hill taking on one alum Jingnan Shang. Contender Series and A1 alum Ding Meng taking on Jose Henrique. Road to the UFC alum Zhu Kanji taking on Ramon Tavares. And then the fight that I was excited about that they have pulled off, Muslim Salikov is out. They are trying to get Jake Matthews an opponent on short notice. There's some time to do so, but we'll see. But bummed that isn't coming through. But we'll kick this off in the prelims. We have 2 prelim fights we'll break down. We have Ray Suraya, 23 years old with a 10-1 record, taking on Jesus Aguilar, 27 years old with a 12-4 record. Now, this is two raw young flyweights trying to make a name for themselves in the UFC. Ray, he's about to be 24. He came from the road to the UFC. Jesus is a Contender Series alum. He has steadily improved in the 4 years in the UFC, but he's going to have to deal with a heavy amount of takedowns coming his way, so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Breaking this down, Ray obviously has a wrestling style. Again, he's a road to the UFC alum and champion. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, 2-1 in the UFC. 4 of his 10 wins are via knockout, 4 via submission. So 8 of his 10 wins are via finish, and he has a 5.5-inch reach advantage. Jesus is a Contender Series alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, 3-2 since 2024. 7 of his 12 wins are via submission. 2 of his 4 losses are also via submission. So to submit or be submitted. Now, Jesus is obviously the more experienced fighter. I think he is the better fighter. But Ray was already thrown into the deep end with the fight against Joshua Van, who's now, an undoubted young champion. He tried to take Josh down over 20 times. Obviously, a lot defended, was outboxed. In this fight, either Ray's going to get takedowns to win rounds, or he doesn't. I think on the fight, it'll still be a competitive fight. I do think Jesus has a real shot at winning. For that reason, I'm taking Jesus Aguilar, but I'm avoiding this on any parlays possible. Moving on. Well, let's look at the odds. The odds are even close to being. The odds changed a lot on this week's Apex card. I mean, everything changes pretty rapidly. But let's see if we can get some real odds on this fight. So Ray is a minus 330 favorite. So I'm taking an underdog. The dog's coming to eat. Moving on. We have Aoriqileng, the Mongolian murderer. 32 years old with a 26-11-1 record. Taking on Cody Haddon. 27 years old with an 8-1 record. Now, Cody is a newer face to the UFC after earning a Contender Series contract. He defended over 20 takedowns in his UFC debut against Dan Argueta. He's definitely going to have his fair share in this fight, but Aoriqileng has some good knockout power as well, so this should be a fun fight. Breaking it down, Aoriqileng has a Sanda style. He has an orthodox stance. I don't know if he still does, but I'm pretty sure he still trains out of Fight Ready with Henry Cejudo. He's on a 1-fight winning streak, 2-1 since 2023, and 9 of his 26 wins are via knockout. Cody is a Contender Series alum. He's on a 6-fight winning streak, 2-0 in the UFC. 5 of his 8 wins are via knockout, 2 via submission, so 7 of his 8 wins via finish. Now, I expect Aoriqileng to come out aggressive early, looking for a finish quickly. Again, I always relate, this guy's 32 years old. He's been through the mix. He's got to be confident in his abilities. I got to beat this younger fighter. I think Cody is definitely talented enough to defend takedowns, hang on the feet in this fight, and even look for takedowns of his own. Aoriqileng's been in some wild fights. I expect this to be pretty wild as well, back and forth. And Aoriqileng has been a pro fighter for quite a while. His best win in the UFC was probably 2021 against Cody Gibson, which was his last fight. Cody has a higher ceiling, but it will come down to if he's prepared and skilled enough today. I just don't think today he's going to pull through. For that reason, especially in his home country, I am taking Aoriqileng, but I'm avoiding him on a parlay. And odds-wise, he's a plus 275 dog. So back-to-back dogs, the dog's coming to eat. Moving on. In the main card, we have Alex Perez, 34 years old with a 26-10 record and the number 11 next to his name, taking on Sumudaerji, the Tibetan Eagle, 30 years old with a 19-7 record. Well, Sumudaerji is on a roll in his prime at 30. He's had a tough stretch against ranked opponents. Sumudaerji isn't a huge finishing threat since he's been in the UFC, but is talented everywhere. And he's had one of the more exciting fights I've ever seen against Max Schnell. But Alex is coming off the biggest win that he's had and really only had chances against the best of the division has had to offer. So it's been a tough stretch for him as well. But this is a critical moment for both men at 34 and 30. A ton is on the line, so I expect a really good fight performance. Breaking this down, Alex is an RFA, King of the Cage, Cage Fury, and Contender Series alum. He's tied with Deiveson Figueiredo, John Lineker, Dustin Ortiz, and Joshua Van for third most knockouts in flyweight history. He has the second shortest average fight time in flyweight history at 6 minutes 25 seconds. The third most knockdowns per 15 minutes in flyweight history at 1.17. He's on a one-fight winning streak, 2-3 since 2024. 7 of his 26 wins are via knockout, 7 via submission, so 14 of his 26 wins via finish. Now, Sumudaerji has a Sanda style. He's on a 3-fight winning streak, 3-1 since 2024. 13 of his 19 wins are via knockout. 6 of his 7 losses are via submission, but he does have a 6.5-inch reach advantage. Now, this is definitely going to be a high-paced, intense fight that I'm sure will deliver for the fans in China. You know, Alex is a hard hitter and hardly fights to decisions. He's only lost via decision to Muhammad Makayev back in 2024. And Sumudaerji only has one finish in the UFC. That was against Malcolm Gordon in 2020. Sumudaerji has relied on taking his opponents down, and Alex is not going to be an easy fighter to do that. Alex could even get some takedowns of his own. So again, pure chaos. I think Sumudaerji is going to be the fresher fighter with the length advantage, and Alex is going to look to counter him. The only way this goes to a decision is if Alex keeps getting taken down and held down. I don't think that's how that plays out. I think Alex is live for another finish here as well. For that reason, I'm taking Alex Perez. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Kai Asakura, 32 years old with a 21-6 record, taking on Cameron, the baby-faced killer, Smotherman, 28 years old with a 12-6 record. The biggest question for me in this fight, Cameron having to go overseas, is he going to be able to make weight? He had an absolutely brutal weight cut attempt in the Ricky Tercios fight. After he stepped off the scale, he fell exactly on his face, fainted, clearly was messed up. The fight got pulled. Now Kai, he's a promising fighter. You know, he's in the middle of his prime at 32 years old. It's time for him to show up and show out. That's the reason he's on this main card. Cameron, though, is a formidable opponent, but I expect this fight to be a clang and bang, back and forth, striking showdown. Breaking this down, Kai trains at a Japan top team. He has a black belt in Zendo Kai and a purple belt in BJJ. He's a Risen alum and former champion. He had the 2019 upset of the year against Kyoji Horiguchi. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, 0-1 in the UFC. 13 of his 21 wins are via knockout. 3 of his 6 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now, Kai had an impressive run in Risen. He defeated Manel Kopp. Then he lost to him in a rematch where he lost the belt. He also defeated Kyoji Horiguchi via a first-round knockout. And then he lost to him in the rematch via first-round knockout. But that's very high-level competition at a young age. He's recently got a UFC contract after he won the Risen Bantamweight Championship, and they immediately threw him in against Alexandre Pantoja for the Flyweight Championship, thinking at the time they needed new blood. Since that's happened, look at all the young up-and-coming talent. He lost to Tim Elliott after that, was taken down quite a few times. Now he's getting mostly a striker. I think this is an opportunity for him to get a very impressive win, or if it's a battle back and forth, he's going to have a tough UFC career. But I'm a believer. I'm taking Kai Asakura. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Sergei Pavlovich, 33 years old with a 20-3 record and the number 3 next to his name, taking on Tallison Teixeira, 26 years old with a 9-1 record and the number 14 next to his name. Now, this was kind of head-scratching and let's see. Tallison was finished in round 1 against Derek Lewis and then barely escaped a fight against Tai Tuivasa. Looked pretty bad in his last fight. Now he's getting a pole vaulted into the top 3. Kind of weird situation. But the heavyweight division, there's no, uncertainty that they're in desperation of having new blood at the top of the division. So I think both of these heavyweights are probably going to go 0 to 100. Both guys are big swingers that could finish anyone. The problem for me is that Sergei is a real killer. He's proven. It seems like he's regained some of his confidence. I still think he's one of the biggest problems in the heavyweight division. And he's a lot more well-rounded than Tallison. He could take Tallison down if needed. That's a huge weakness for him. We saw how sloppy he was in the Tai Tuivasa fight. Breaking this down, Sergei has an orthodox stance. Trains out of Eagles MMA. He's a Fight Nights Global alum and former champ with 1 successful title defense. He has the longest first-round knockout win streak in UFC history with 6. He's tied with Don Fry for second longest knockout win streak in UFC history with 6. That's behind Chuck Liddell. He's on a 2-fight win streak and is 2-1 since 2024. 15 of his 20 wins are via knockout. Life in the heavyweight. 2 of his 3 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now, Tallison has an orthodox stance. He's an LFA and Contender Series alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak, 3-1 in the UFC. 7 of his 9 wins are via knockout. His 1 loss is also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now, everyone wants to see 2 heavyweights like this, 2 kind of gladiator-like fighters going at it, getting a finish. But there is a chance that if Tallison can hang, that Sergei is going to try to take him down. Sergei has been more patient in his last few fights after some losses, so maybe he lets Tallison be aggressive and look to counter. Either way, don't blink in this fight. It's going to be a ton of fun, but I'm going with Sergei Pavlovich. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on in the co-main. Obviously, Asia and China are well displayed here. We have Zhang, the Mountain Tiger Mingyang, 27 years old with a 19-7 record, taking on Alonzo Atomic Menifield, 38 years old with a 17-6-1 record and the number 15 next to his name. This really is just another chance for Zhang to prove himself. He's only 27. He is a serious striking threat, but he was defeated by leg kicks in his last outing against Johnny Walker and is susceptible to being taken down as well. Alonzo is a pretty well-rounded and proven light heavyweight, but he is nearing 39 years old. He's slowing down. He hasn't won via knockout since October of 2020, so I'm excited to see what Zhang is capable of. He's almost had a year off since that last fight in Shanghai, so this should be a doozy. Breaking it down, Zhang has a Sanda style. He trains out of Extreme Couture. He has a blue belt in BJJ. 3 of his last 4 fights have been performance of the night. He shows up, he shows out. He's a road to the UFC alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, 3-1 since 2024. Hasn't been very active. 13 of his 19 wins are via knockout, 6 via submission. So all 19s of his wins via finish, and 4 of his 7 losses are via knockout. Now, Alonzo trains out of Fortis MMA. He's a Bellator, RFA, LFA, and Contender Series 2-time alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, 2-3 since 2024. 10 of his 17 wins are via knockout. 4 of his 6 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. So my guess is either Zhang wins via finish or Alonzo makes this fight ugly. He gets up against the cage in the clinch, dirty boxes him and takes him down and teaches Mingyang a thing or two. But I think Zhang's going to be too long, too lengthy of a striker. For that reason, in China, I'm taking Zhang Mingyang. I'm avoiding this on a parlay. With how he looked against Johnny Walker, it's hard to have a ton of confidence. But he is a minus 220 favorite as of today, although it's fairly early in the odds. Then in the main event, we get Song, Kung Fu Kid Yadong, 28 years old with a 22-9-1 record and the number 5 next to his name, taking on Deiveson Deuce de Guerra Figueiredo, 38 years old with a 25-6-1 record and the number 7 next to his name. Now, I personally think Deiveson days of being a dominant fighter are past him. He's nearing 39 years old, especially in this weight class. It's pretty old. I'm curious how much more he wants to fight if he loses. But Song, he's well tested. He's a talented fighter, still not even in his prime at 28 years old, and he has a real opportunity to bring China a UFC champion. You know, I think Song is going to be too powerful and too fast against Figueiredo. I do think Deiveson's going to have to try to resort to grappling with Song, and I don't think he'll have much luck with that either. Song trains with Uriah Faber. He's been doing that for quite a few years now, and he looked pretty talented, or showed off his skills against Sean O'Malley, and many of previous guys. He's very explosive. Breaking this down, Song has a Sanda style. He trains out of Team Alpha Male. He's a 1 alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak. He's 1-2 since 2024, and 9 of his 22 wins are via knockout. Deiveson has a black belt in BJJ. He's a Jungle Fight alum. He's a former flyweight champion with 2 successful title defenses. He had the fastest title fight turnaround in UFC history. It was only 21 days in 2020. He's tied with Brandon Moreno for 3rd most title fight wins in UFC flyweight history with 3. He's tied with Demetrius Johnson for 2nd most finishes in flyweight history with 7, only behind Alexandre Pantoja. He has the fastest submission in flyweight history, 1 minute 57 seconds against Alex Perez. He has the most knockdowns landed in flyweight history with 11. The most submission attempts in flyweight history with 10. He's tied with John Lineker, Dustin Ortiz, Alex Perez, and Joshua Van for 3rd most knockouts in flyweight history with 4. He has the shortest span between a trilogy in UFC history. That was 406 days, a little over a year, against Brandon Moreno. He has the first trilogy in UFC history consisting of both fighters in 3 consecutive bouts. The first one against Brandon Moreno was the 2020 Fight of the Year and earned him 2020 Fighter of the Year. He was a killer, man, in flyweight. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, 3-3 since 2024. 9 of his 25 wins are via knockout, 9 via submission. So 18 of his 25 wins via finish. I personally think Song dominates. This is an opportunity for him to really boost his career and get back on track after a tough loss against Sean O'Malley. I think he's too fast, too powerful, has too good a movement for Deiveson on the feet. Deiveson's going to desperately try to do some pull guard, jiu-jitsu, some wrestling, and it's not going to work. For that reason, I think Song's a real live opportunity for a finish. I don't think this goes more than 3 rounds. For that reason, I'm taking the 400-plus favorite, Song Yadong. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Again, previewing this a 5 out of 10, obviously very China heavy. I'm intrigued in the Ray Suyara fight to see, only 23. How does he do? I think the older fighter prevails. Cody Haddon, how's he going to do against Aoriqileng? Aoriqileng's in must-win territory. The Perez Sumudaerji fight is going to be fight of the night. Positive of that. Kai Asakura, how good is he? He should start this kid. Can Tallison Teixeira hang after a bad performance? I don't think so. How good is Zhang Mingyang right now? Hopefully he's good enough. And I think Song is on full display on the main event. But then after this, we're getting Memorial Day weekend off after this weekend, then Macau, early in the morning. And then we have 4 consecutive weeks of UFC action. There's a break in the 4th of July weekend. But the next one up will be Fight Night Vegas 118 at the Apex. It is a pretty deep and loaded Apex card. The headliner is Bilal Muhammad and Gabriel Bonfim. There really isn't a bad fight on this card. But this is episode 148. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.